Hello, welcome to Week 6 Power Rankings for the VDL Season 8. Here with me is Miss Mag. Say hi, Miss Mag.
What's going on, everybody?
So this is definitely a very interesting week. This is definitely a big week, and identifying some teams who are likely to make playoffs, clinching some playoff spots, and some overall interesting matches. But with that, we can get straight into what happened. Before we start Week 6, though, we have one match, which was the Week 5 match between the New York Metronomes versus the Ferocious Ursaring. This was the Ursaring's first match, um, playing as the replacement for the Scuba Squirtles. So what was your thought on the match?
I thought it was a good match. Definitely a good showing for the first week for the Ursa Rings. Was a bit of RNG in the first game. I believe the Aerodactyl got like a double flinch or something crazy like that. But yeah, good showing from both coaches.
Well, yeah, I think it was a very fun match. I think game one, the the Ursaring tried to go with the Trick Room, or basically tried to go with like a Noivern lead, to try to not deal with Trick Room, which is they've been very Trick Room leading before they got the coach change, and the Aerodactyl lead ended up punishing it greatly, like you said, with the flinches. And then game two, the Ursa Ring switched it up, went for Trick Room mode with Spritzy, and the Metronomes kind of had a really big misplay where they tried to taunt Spritzy without realizing its ability prevents taunting. And so the game kind of went into this trick room game. However, the Metronomes ended up bringing Bronzong, so it actually was a very interesting back and forth, in which they were kind of able to get through it despite kind of being able to so there was like it was back and forth, but they weren't able to overcome the trick room. And then game three, um, the Ursaring switched back to their Tailwind mode, and the Metronomes did the anti-Trick Room mode, and ended up setting up their own Trick Room, and then out Trick Rooming them, which was like a very interesting kind of dynamic.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was definitely great. It was definitely also a much needed win for the Metronomes or Metstronomes to stay within possible playoff contention.
Oh yeah,
But I agree with you. It was definitely a fun match to watch.
yeah. I definitely think it was a good showing for the Ursaring. Sadly, they did not get the first win of the season. Well, maybe they did. We'll talk about them in week 6. But with that, we can go into the official week 6, which started off with Rebellion versus the New York Metronomes, which this one ended up actually being played on the Monday after week 6. So, what was your thoughts on this match?
And again, this is kind of why I said it was really important that they won their week five because I believe what was it? D Gleam Gengar was the showstopper here for the Metstronomes and Preston. I believe it like one shot Choice Band Urshifu Dark
Yeah,
or something like that during the course of the game.
yes, multiple times.
Yeah, multiple times. See, they got lost track of how often it died. Definitely really solid prep from Lucian running a mono Kanto team as we have all seen and have come to love. And another 2-0 in his pocket is very good for him as we start to close out the season.
Well, yeah, I think it was definitely the Metronomes kind of had. I felt like where they were kind of on their back foot, notably game one, where they had led the Toy Scarf Arcanine, which did massive damage, and then the Choice Band Dragonite with Aqua Jet and extreme speed, so completely disregarded the Tailwind set up by Aerodactyl by having the priority and then just big damage from a Choice Band. Game two, I definitely felt like at some point the Metronomes were in favor. I believe they at some point they ended up getting a double knockout. And that, however, the they Rebellion was able to switch in. I believe it was multi-scale Dragonite and Focus Sash Gengar, which prevent basically the ability and the item on those two Pokemon basically made both of them impossible to one shot, and they were able to kind of come in and clean up the game.
Yeah, no, that was a really smart bait and switch, I guess, from Lucian. As you bring in the two mons that they know you can't one shot, and then you kind of just like wrap, like you said, wrap up from there.
Mhm. Any other thoughts about the 2-0 in favor of Rebellion?
Yeah, I mean, I think Preston's had like quite a few sort of like iffy plays and misplays during the course of the season. Like he played fairly fine the week before versus the Ursa Rings, and then kind of this week is kind of falling back into the same pattern. So I do hope he can finish the season strong. I think he has the team definitely to do it.
Hmm. Definitely excited to see some more of them, but definitely they need a strong showing to make playoffs to finish up the season. But talking about teams that don't need to finish strong, the Migrating Melodics were able to get 2-0, getting their sixth win of the season. So any thoughts on this match?
I mean, at this point, this is Brave doing Brave things. Like that's just kind of how it is. This matchup in particular was really favorable, I think, to the Milotics because the Togekisses have been really heavily leaning on their Metagross, and I believe their Chandelure as well over the course of the season. And Brave has Spectrier, and guess what? Those two other mons don't really like. They don't really like stab ghost hits that come from very high base special attack powered mons. To the Togekiss' credit, though, they do have Guzzlord, which can be a problem for Spectre, but I believe Brave sort of built his team around defending from Guzzlord pretty well.
Well, yeah, with the I believe it was the Sash Volcarona this week, and then the Azumarill with Play Rough. They definitely threatened or slash defended from the Guzzlord's offensive pressure. And the yeah, it's basic. Brave's been doing great, but they definitely have had a very strong or consistent core, which happened to be I think the four that they brought game one, which was the Azumarill, Garchomp, Spectre, Volcarona. Those mons have definitely come to almost every single week for them, and that core is just really hard to deal with because the redirection, which protects both of the good offensive all three of those offensive mons, and there aren't many you know um, spread moves that deal good damage to both the Volcarona and the partner Pokemon.
Yep, and then on top of that, there's like I don't think there's a single weakness in common between those four, except literally maybe freeze dry. I
Yeah,
could be completely wrong, but I do not think those four mons share any weaknesses other than literally freeze dry from Azu and Garchomp.
you might be right with that. I actually think you are. I'm not going to confirm that, but I think you are right.
Yeah,
Uh,
which just kind of speaks to how stupidly strong that core really is.
well, yeah. I so yeah, but yeah. So I remember I think game two was a little bit more close. I think game one was very convincing win. Game two I think was a little bit more close where the War Turtle came in was quite annoying with a yawn, and I think it ended up yawning him on. Um, and I can't remember which mon it was, but I think I want to say it was Azumarill, and then they kept it in. Brave decided to keep it in instead of switching it out in order to get a kill on the Chandelure, I believe, and then it stayed asleep for multiple turns. And so they definitely had,
Hmm.
definitely some nice plays. Definitely a close 2-0, but another 2-0 in favor of the Melodics, who have been doing very well this season.
Yes, they have.
But continuing on, we can go to another team that was doing very well, the Pangorials, the Baltimore Pangorials, who won 2-0 against the crushing Silvalis. The Pangorials also are undefeated. This game was definitely very interesting. I'm gonna let you talk about game one because I think you have some. There's a very interesting end game that happened there.
Yeah, the first game, I was so I'm gonna be honest. I really, and I mean really, thought some had that one locked up because the first game basically came down to a Dracozolt endgame for the Pangorials versus the Ninetales with I believe it had Focus Sash, but the Sash might have already been broken or something. But it was Ninetales and a Scarf Rotom Mo that was locked into Leaf Storm. So in that position, some had, I believe, the sun was also up.
Yeah, the sun was up.
So basically, all he needed to do was go for the Dracozolt with the Ninetales, get a little bit of Heat Wave chip on it. Dracozolt doesn't have like AV or any, like doesn't have like a stellar special defense core, even though it's resisted. Get some good chip on it. Leaf Storm can kind of basically pick up the rest, and the Dracozolt can only target one thing unless it's clicking Rock Slide, which we didn't see. Turns out the Ninetales was actually slower, got Bolt beaked off the field, and then the Rotom was just literally stuck being very sad and going -2 into Dracozolt for the rest of the game. So the Pangorials were able to clean up the first game with a 1-0. And I know I was speaking with some after the game, and he did say the one unfortunate thing is that he had spread credit for the adamant Dragazol and not for the Jolly. So it's just that one was just painful because I would have loved to have seen that set go to game three, quite honestly.
Oh yeah, definitely a sad one. And also one of those that was like so strange to see while you're watching the match because it's like Ninetales, which is a 100 base speed mon, not outspeeding a 70 base speed mon, is so strange. Especially like when the item on that was revealed. So definitely definitely a interesting end game there. So any thoughts on game two of it of the set?
Yeah, game two, I think Panda just had the correct adjustment there with going for the, I believe the trick room setup, leaning on that Gardecuno, and then he had basically uh he was basically like in a position put someone in a position where it's like if you don't get rid of Gardecuno's going to get off speed control, but then I believe there was either the Tietar or the Dragozolt was next to it, so it's like you basically choose, do you want to lose speed control or do you want to lose Pokemon, more or less. So I think some tried to do a mid ground play of electro webbing to slow them down, and then he probably wanted to go for a one shot into the Gardecuno, but it was holding the I forgot what's the ghost resist berry. I think it's Kasib. I should know this. I'm a ghost type trainer, but I think it was a Kasib. It was holding the ghost resist berry,
Yeah.
so the Dragapult next to the Scarf Rotom was not able to pick up the Gardecuno after the Electro Web, and then it basically swept the rest of the game at +2. Unfortunately,
Oh yeah,
for
that
some.
it was such a bad turn. They went for the Electro Web Shadow Ball, but that was the giving Articuno with competitive +2 special attack, lowering both them and Tyranitar speed, and then the Articuno set up Trick Room that turn. So it lowered their speed so that they were guaranteed to underspeed in Trick Room after that, and
Yeah,
gave the special attack boost. And that turn just kind of after that turn
it,
it was bad.
Yeah, no, and like I respect the play because given I believe that was the lead, like you don't want to switch because that gives Panda free momentum. But it was a 50-50 on whether or not Guardy was going to go fast mode with Tailwind and or slow mode with Trick Room. Because if he clicked Tailwind, I feel like his position might have been maybe just marginally a little bit better with the -1 in effect. But the Trick Room basically was just a death sentence with
Yeah.
them having the -1 drop.
Oh, definitely. So Uh, but with that, we can go to the next match, I believe, which is the Atlanta Talonflames versus the Ferocious Urslings, where the Talonflames were able to win 2-1. Correct me if I'm wrong, however, I believe this was not recorded and there was no video of this match.
Well, it was the coach of the Ursa Ranks is a good buddy of mine. He didn't post it, but I did actually see I saw the unedited the raw footage.
Oh,
So I can describe. Yeah,
was
he doesn't like post anything, but he did share with me and some other friends the video. So
okay.
I can describe the game. The first game was it was pretty. I think it was pretty close. I think the Rhyperior ended up getting the best of them because it had Heat Crash for the Escavalier. So the Rhyperior and the Cinderace were really pressuring that sort of Trick Room mode. Even though like yeah he got up Trick Room I think once in that game, but they were pretty bulky and Rhyperior is not exactly terrible under Trick Room. So that was nice. And the Runerigas that the Talonflame brought actually had Imprison and Trick Room just to kind of muddy the waters a bit. So Talonflames kind of took the first game, I would say, pretty handily. Game two, it came down to, I believe, just a little bit of a struggle off where like they had the Morpeko that had like a million speed boost from Aura Wheel and and they were clicking ally switch with the Spritzy. It was just really kind of a funny end game where it's like Joe is basically forced to call ally switch potentially every single turn, and calling it wrong means that he gets more chipped on the Rhyperior. So that the Ursalings were actually able to pick up the game two win. Game three was probably the most interesting of them all. It still again came down to that sort of it came down to an Escavalier endgame with Assault Vest versus Scarf, Lele, and Rhyperior. And then there was also Cinderace. And I feel like if the Ursarangs had just put the previous turn, they had the Spritzy out next to the Escavalier, and they opted to Moonblast into the Cinderace slot to kind of finish it off. It wasn't a fire type at the time. I feel like if the turn prior they had just put more chip on the Rhyperior so that the Iron Head from the Scav picked it up, they would have been better off. Just because, like, I don't see a world in which Scarf Lele beats AV Escavalier, but you know the Rhyperior has the Heat Crash, which one shots you. So, and obviously Cinderace has Pyro Ball, you know.
Hmm.
But I know there's no video, but I will say that it was a good showing. It was kind of like their first week versus the Metronomes, like just not quite enough to get there.
Oh yeah, and if you just look at like the battle report, I think every game ended up coming down. Every game they lost ended up coming down to only one Pokemon left on the Talonflame side. So it's definitely seemed pretty close in that aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the Talon Flames get their second win of the season, which I gotta say, Joe, that was really impressive to watch. I did actually like a lot of the sets he brought. Like the Frostmoth, I believe, also made an appearance as well. It was a good showing from the Talon Flames and a much needed win for them to stay in playoff contention.
Yeah. Oh, definitely with that. But I guess with that, we can move on to the next match, which was the Bistro Bewares versus the Queen City Quagsires, where the Bewares were able to win 2-1. Correct me if I'm wrong again, but I also believe this match didn't have a video.
That one, I'm pretty sure you're right on because I don't remember seeing this match at all.
Yeah,
Um, I'm scrolling through it now. I don't think either one of them posted it.
yeah. So for reference, anyone who's watching this, there quite a few of the matches. I think this was probably the fewest videos that were um, released this week. There's still a lot, but a lot of videos in general. But we did not. I think there ended up being three matches that had no videos, which is a little bit sad. Um,
Yeah,
but but
just
yeah,
how the coaches lined up.
yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. But it looked like it was a close three-game set. I would say, going a little bit quick, the Bewares seemed to lean pretty heavily on the NDD Hitmonlee on burden strategy, and
Hmm.
the Quagsires ended up leaning very much on Zapdos and Hydreigon. Um, Basically, with their main thing, they used a little bit of their rain mode with Pelipper and Seismitude, but they kind of fluctuated with their last months, but it was mainly Zapdos and Hydreigon for their side.
Yeah,
But
definitely looks like they took a close game one off the Bewares, and then the Bewares adjusted based on the battle report pretty well with that Hitmonlee and Indeedee female.
yeah, oh yeah, but definitely looked like it was a close match. Makes sense that these teams have definitely been really close in the rankings all season. I think they have pretty comparable power levels, but Beware's able to get out there. But with
Hmm.
that, we can move on to the next one, which was Mad Rex versus the Lake Erie Wishiwashis, where the Wishiwashis were able to win 2-1. So this one was definitely a fun match. I definitely enjoyed watching it. What was your thoughts on the match?
I'll be honest, I don't actually remember seeing this one. I think I might have watched maybe like the first game, but I'm not sure if I've actually finished the set. Um,
So okay, yeah. So the big one is that let's see. Yeah. So Rex ended up going with a it was a bulky weakness policy Latios set. They went with a choice scarf Inteleon, and then I want to say it was a guts throw with wide guard. Um, and then and then yeah, this what's it called? And then the they also went with the meteor beam power herb Nihilego. So I remember those things about their sets. So I'm trying to remember all the stuff. I know game two, it ended up being this very interesting position where Nihilego was able to get all four kills, where they got a meteor beam kill into I want to say it was the Decidueye, and then dazzling gleams basically finished off the rest of the team, where it basically one shot a Como and did massive damage into Lucario and the Raichu. I mean, not Raichu. Yeah, Raichu.
mhm. Right, you,
Um,
right, you.
yeah, the game game three, I think, was the big one, which was a little bit annoying for on Rex's side, where Rex ended up getting frozen by an ice beam the turn it went for a meteor beam, and it would have gotten a +1 special attack. Um, and then because it got frozen, it didn't get that +1 special attack. So instead of being able to do spread damage the following turn, it had to go for the meteor beam a second time to get the special attack boost.
That was the game with the freeze. Yeah,
Yeah.
Rex has been playing some of his matches earlier, so I think
Oh
that
yes, this
that
one,
attributed to my memory
yes,
loss.
this game I think ended up being played like the Friday before the start of week 6. Something
Gotcha.
like that.
Okay.
This was a very I think this was a very early match. Um, and yeah, so but for the most part, I think it was a very clean match from the Lake Erie Wishiwashis. They were able to position
Mhm.
well. The Decidueye did a lot of work. I think it ended up one-shotting the bulky Latios, on which I think at some point I did the damage calc where game one there was a really big damage roll where Latios went for a Poltegeist into the super bulky Latio, or Decidueye went for the Poltegeist into the very bulky Latios, and based on
Mhm.
the bulk investment, I think it ended up having like a roughly, I think it was like a 43.8% chance to kill, and that was the difference between game one, Rex winning, and the Wishiwashi's winning. So just barely, just that roll was definitely the big decider because it ended up killing it, and if it didn't kill it, the weakness policy would have been activated, and the Latios would have completely wiped the field.
Yeah, nah, Hippo's definitely had a good season so far, though. We all hate hacks in all various flavors and sizes. Like it is unfortunately just part of the game. Um, but yeah, no, I do agree that this from the parts of this match that I do actually remember seeing since it was played so early. It was a good set.
Well, yeah, and it's definitely always interesting when you so like the Wishiwashi's brought Scarf Raichu in order to outspeed Mons like Inteleon, and then Rex brought Scarf Inteleon specifically to outspeed Scarf Raichu. And so it completely worked out. I think it was game one or three. They ended up hydro cannoning to kill it on turn one. Outspeed and get the one shot. But it's definitely an interesting match. But like you said, like you and me both, I think I don't remember all the intricacies of this match as well as I probably should. But because it was such a long time ago, because you know it was before we did our videos for week
Hmm.
5 power rankings.
Right.
But with that, I guess we can do the next one, which is the Vienna Vaporions versus the Trixie Chicos, which is another one that was very early on. But in this one, the Vaporions were able to beat the Tricos 2-0. So do you recall this match, even though it was also pretty early?
This one, so the only reason I actually really recall this match is because it actually happened the day after, I believe it was a day or two after I played Auto. It was like, that's how back to back it was. Um, the one thing I do remember about this match in particular is that the Galarian Rapidash was really annoying, I believe, for Auto to deal with. I think that's like I said, it was played pretty early, but I do remember that the Glare and Rapidash in particular, I think, gave Otto a lot of trouble by pressuring the Crook. And I believe there was also maybe like a Scarf Lando in there. But yeah, the Vaporeons basically they outmaneuvered the Tricos, at least I believe in the first game.
Hmm.
But beyond that, I don't remember if there was like too much hacks or anything like at play. But I do remember like he would like Lion and the Vaporize was literally just trying to like chip down what Otto brought each time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I definitely remember. I think game one, it ended up being like a very awkward lead for Otto, where I think it ended up being like Corviknight and Thunderous, I believe, maybe, or it was something like that in front of I think in this case it was Bucephalon and I want to say Landorus, but something like that, which it was very a lot of offensive pressure, which kind of put Otto a little bit on the back foot, so they had to do a lot of pivoting and a lot of like protecting in situations like that, in which kind of the lead definitely hurt them notably. And I'm pretty sure it was just the pressure of Cephalon specifically into some of those mons. And then game two, that was definitely the game in which the Rapidash did a lot of work. I think it got a free sword stance off at some point, and and then from that point it just kind of was a massive, it was just like a massive scare, massively scary. And then I know the Landorus was came both games, and I believe it was Scarf. Um, let's see. But yeah, I don't remember too much of the intricacies of the match. Again, for the same reason, all I remember is that I definitely think that um, the definitely seemed like the Vaporions were very offensive leading this week, and it definitely punished autos this game plan.
Yeah, for sure. And that's kind of how their team has been from the beginning. I have to admit, as much as I did not necessarily care for it in week 0 and earlier versions of the power rankings, they've they've made a fan of me. I have really enjoyed seeing them play the last couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, definitely they've definitely been doing well. I think they've found found their team. Definitely have been using it properly, doing good prep, and they've definitely gone from a team that I think we were maybe a little bit questionable on how good they were, into like feeling like they're one of the top teams in the league. But with that, we can
For
move
sure.
on to the next match, which is the Steel Warriors versus the Lowland Raquinins. Which, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this was the last match that has not been recorded. There was no recording, or yeah.
Yes, you are correct about this. But I do have, again, I'm just full of insider info today. Because KJ is a good friend of mine, and I helped him prep for this match. So he did tell me, at least before he took a trip, he told me what a little bit about the match. It was a pretty favorable 2-0. The only thing I can he did mention was the Confe Goldtrace combo that KJ drafted basically just kind of destroyed Toby's whole team. It was the thing that Walter's got like 7 kills or something like that.
That is
Um,
correct.
yeah, turns out Toby's team doesn't really have like too many challenges to like dark and really just dark mons in general. He's and the flying kind of neuters the sun mode. Goldtrace also gets ancient power for like Torkoal. So it's just one of those where like Confe, Moltres just kind of do their thing, and then the rest of KJ's team kind of can clean up in the back. I believe Toby brought. I think. Let me see. I forgot what 4 mons he. I remember the Torkoal came. I think Meow. I think he said Torkoal,
Dustnor,
Meowstic, Dustnor, and I forgot what the fourth one was that came like
Vikable.
every single game.
So yeah, so both games it was Dustnor, Machamp, Torkoal,
That
and
was my
Vikable.
champ. Oh, and oh, it was Vikable. Okay, I thought that the Meowstic was in there, but yeah, it just seemed like a very commanding performance from Comfy Goldtrace, and unfortunately for the Steel Warriors, this pretty much knocks them out of playoff contention.
Yeah, def- definitely a sad loss for them, especially from that dominating performance of one single specific mon. But that's why Galarian Moltres is a tier one mon, because it can do that. It could just sweep teams if it's in the right position.
Oh yeah, there was also some I think sleep RNG with either with Yawn from the Torkoal, I believe that was a thing. I remember reading about that in the post game spoilers that Toby was. I believe he was saying if KJ had gotten one more turn of sleep, he could have I think won like game 1 or something. I forget which one, but I think there was some level of RNG as well as just a Moltres obviously sweeping the game that came into play there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, definitely would have been an interesting watch, but congratulations on the win for the Araquanids. We don't get to see too much. We didn't get to see the match, but with that, we can move to a match that we did see that I think was a very interesting, close match between the Rolled Gold Pretzels and the Drowsy Dracozols. What was your thoughts on this set?
My first thought is it's always fun watching two friends fight, especially if you are not the one fighting. That's the first thing I thought. Second thing was I thought this was probably Gumi's best played match all season. And I'm not just saying that because he won. I actually think he prepped well, and I think he made smart, intelligent choices towards his end games in both of the games that he won. At the same time, I also think the Dragozolts played fairly well, but the one difference really was just a very crucial miss swap, I believe, in game three, where they swapped their Barraskewda in and it ended up taking a Hurricane from the Moltres, which kind of cost them the game because they needed the Barraskewda to actually end game the Moltres. The Gourgeist was unfortunately not able to do it.
Yeah. So for the match was really interesting. So both the Pretzels and the Dragozolts ended up bringing a rain mode. The the Pretzels brought Rain Dance Regieleki with Kingdra, and the Dragozolts ended up bringing Rain Dance Lightbard with Barraskewda, both of them having Swift Swim. And so it was definitely interesting because they both kind of wanted the rain up and they both kind of didn't want the rain up at the same time. Um, the and so that was definitely a fun, interesting back and forth. And I definitely think that rain turns ended up being a really important aspect that happened that ended up making a big decision in game three. I definitely think game two, the the Pretzels were able to get into a really interesting position where they got like reasonable chip into pretty much every mon on the Dragosult side, and they then ended up having Spiritomb out with Shadow Sneak and Sucker Punch, I believe. And so it ended up basically they couldn't make any switches, they couldn't make any moves that were actually I think they only had Sucker Punch. And so they kind of were in this weird position where they had to read sucker punches because none of their mons could take a sucker punch. So they kind of either had to figure out who they were going to sucker punch and try to get into this weird end game where Spiritomb basically just prevented them from doing anything nice because of the sucker punch pressure. Um,
Yep.
and then I think another interesting play that I think is probably that I really wanted to mention, which was game three, where it was a berserker on the field in front of no, it wasn't a berserker. It was a Tapu Bulu in front of in the field in front of a Bear Scuda that was revealed to have poison jab earlier in this game, and um, the the Dracozolt read the switch out of Tapu Bulu into Berserker, and they ended up going for, I believe, a close combat into the Berserker spot. Or no, it was the
No,
other way around.
no,
Yeah,
it was the other way around. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. They did
Yeah.
poison jab.
They did poison jab into Berserker, which is even more impressive of a read because if they didn't switch out, it would have done nothing. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah.
that was a really cool. But yeah, it ended up coming down to the end game with that, and then I think another sad thing that will happen where they had a choice. The Dragonzolts had a choice band Gorgeist with Shadow Snake, and it ended up burning on the flame body of a Moltres, which that burn ended up making probably what would come down to a very close end game with which was a 2v2 into basically, completely decided in game because they couldn't do enough damage after that burn.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I said, it was definitely a well played match from both ends. It just came down to just a few technical pieces across the set.
well, yeah, definitely so. And it was definitely a fun set, very close. Some really great plays on both sides. I was very impressed with the end games of Gumi and all three of the matches for the Pretzels. Not only the games they won, I also think that they made like they made the optimal play in game one that would have given them their out if if they got a little lucky and or if the Dracozols didn't play optimally. But
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
but with that, we can move on to the next match, which was the MK Mimikyues versus the Walden Bashers, where the Bashers were able to win 2-0. So what were your thoughts on the set?
See, my first thought on this set is I'm never letting Goomer draft Shuckle again. That's the first thing that I will say. So I will solemnly swear to never let this man get Shuckle again. But at the same time, I've really enjoyed watching him utilize it this season. It's a mon that I probably, if you'd asked me at the start of this season, I would have said it was garbage. Like straight up, would have actually just said it was trash. But actually getting to see him use that power trick against Yasha's very specially offensive team was very. It was just like a chef's kiss of work. That game one was phenomenal. And then
So for our viewers who
yeah,
don't know what that move does, because I'm sure a fair number of people don't, can you tell us what that move does?
so power trick is this real fun move which swaps your base attack and base defense scores. It doesn't touch anything else. And Shuckle, I believe, has 230 base defense.
Correct.
Right. Oh, look at that. I got that right. And like five base attacks. So Goomer swapped it so his Shuckles now has a base attack of 230 with stab. I believe Bug Bite was on it, and then he leveraged that into Yasha's team, who is mostly comprised of special attackers. So the downside of Power Trick was very negligible.
Yeah, and they were able to get it in Trick Room as well, where yeah, Bug Bites onto Executor, I think was a clean one hit KO, and then Rock
Oh
Slides
yeah.
were ended up doing massive damage to their team.
Yeah, no, it was a good showing. The Shuckle even benefited from the citrus berry that the Executor had, which may have been part of a harvest strategy, actually.
Yeah.
Got some health regen back, and nearly the struggle nearly took out the whole team as in that first game for sure.
Oh yeah,
So it was well played.
and then another thing that I always found interesting, I really like the Hippowdon set from Goomer as well. On top of the Shuckle set, Hippowdon was like this really bulky slack off set with what's it called? It's not. It's like fire spin, but for ground moves.
Sand tomb, sand
Sand
tomb.
Tomb, yeah, with Sand Tomb, and so it had like no offensive output, but the Sand chip plus the Sand Tomb chip literally just I think ended up killing like 4 or 5 Pokemon that game, or between the two games. I mean,
Yeah, no, it adds up fast, and then you've got the natural sustain with the slack off. Like Hippo's hard to kill. Think Amnesia might have also been on that set somewhere or stockpile.
yeah, I can't remember the exact set, but I know it was I know yeah, it was the kind of the just chipping with recovery strategy,
Hmm.
and they definitely struggled to kill it because I believe the Hippowdon ended up not dying any of the games,
Yeah, I think Hippos was sustained the whole set.
and then
Never actually saw the bench.
yeah, and then I think Goomer ended up doing his which he's been really liking a physical Tornadus with acrobatics.
I mean, at least you don't have to worry about Hurricane missing, unlike some other people who drafted Tornadus.
uh, that's fair. But any other thoughts on the set before we move on?
It was a tough loss for the Mimikyues, I believe, because it put them at like 4-2,
Four and
I
two,
believe.
4 and 2 plus one, I believe.
Yeah, it was just a tough loss in that sort of general sense. Whereas it was a very good win for Goomer, because it more or less keeps them on the pathway to playoffs. But yeah, good match from both coaches.
Oh yeah, definitely so. With that, surprisingly, somehow the last two matches are our two matches, and we begin with your match, in which you beat the Manchesney Park Slowpokes 2-0. So let's hear about your set. What was your thought on your match?
I think I had a really good set versus Adam and the Slowpokes. I think the big thing that allowed me to win the first game was he led Talonflame and Slowking Galar, so it was kind of like how the Talonflames have led their Tailwind and Trick Room Center on lead before to kind of like force you to choose which speed control you want. And I believe I led Instant and Azelf. Talonflame went for Quick Guard, expecting me to click Fake Out into something, and the Slow King actually went for Belly Drum. And I think me not, I don't even think I had Fake Out that. Oh no, I don't even, I generally don't even remember, but I think I had Fake Out, but I didn't go for Fake Out. I went for U Turn instead, to reading that he would Quick Guard, and I think honestly that probably just won me the whole set because it gave the Talonflame a turn where it did nothing. I broke it out of Gale Wings, and then yeah, Slow King set up, but then I can just kind of double Slow King because you don't really have speed control
Mhm.
anymore. And Talonflame's not exactly the greatest threat into my team. It's not really the greatest threat offensively in general, but it's not the greatest threat into my team offensively either. So basically, from there, it was just really about making sure Slowking didn't like 4v40 my team, which it did. It got Marowak, but the my Incineroar was able to pick it up with the Stomping Tantrum. And then in the back, he had, I believe it was Sceptile and Silvalis Dark, which was a really, I gotta give Adam credit. That was a really strong bring into my team. Like, really strong Darkmons, which is why, like, I had all the U-turn kind of coverage. So it just kind of ended up being that it was chipped in, and since Sceptile didn't come with any Unburdened stuff, like, I kind of was able to manage. Game two, he made a great adjustment, I think, by leading Grimmsnarl in Talonflame this time. And I switched to Klefki and Circuitry, so I didn't lead any fake out pressure, so it kind of let him kind of do whatever he want. But what he decided to do was I think he went for Sucker Punch into my Circuitry, and he went for like a Tailwind to get some speed control, and I switched to Circuitry into I think I switched it into Incineroar because I didn't want to take a Spirit Break on a
Yep.
special attack on, which let me get up a very crucial Reflect, which kind of lasted me the rest of the game. Yeah.
Yeah, and once again, I will say that the Slowpoke tried to make their Subat work, and it did nothing. I think an ally switched in front of a circuitry that you Electro Web then one shot it.
Yeah, that was kind of sad. I mean, I crit, so I don't know if it would have lived, but
I don't think so. I'd be surprised.
he tried, and he did pull off the swagger Lumberry on Burden, which I really enjoyed getting to see. But I'm also really happy that Sceptile does not have the greatest physical attack
Yeah.
score.
Oh yeah. I like. I think that's one problem with the Slowpokes this season so far is that they've really been liking the Unburdened Swagger Lumberry strat. I think they've used it literally every single game this entire season. However, the mon they've been using it the most on is Sceptile, which has like what 80 base attack, 90 base attack, somewhere around there. 85,
Yeah,
85.
it's funny because Sceptile's physical move pool is actually not terrible. It just doesn't have the stat to make use of it anymore. Or, well, it never really did, but
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely a little bit. Definitely a fun match though, and but I think it definitely a good win for you, and definitely puts you in a good position to possibly make playoffs. But with that, we can go
Thank
to the
you.
final match of the week, which was my match against the Tentacle Pirates. I guess I'll start since it wasn't for me. So game one, um, I ended up leading pretty much a very, I guess, like support-oriented set with a Rotom and Mr. Rhyme, in which my Rotom had Eerie Impulse, Will-O-Wisp, and so it basically notably kind of dealt with the um, physical attackers and special attackers on the Pirates team. I think I burned Scrafty. I got Heat Run down to I think -4 special attack, and then in the back I was able to clean up with Calastier and Darmanitan, um, in which I never set up Trick Room. I think I ended up I was an AV Mr. Rhyme, so I actually didn't have Trick Room, and so it was definitely a pretty interesting match. I think there was a couple of plays that ended up being pretty close where they could have gotten there. I think my Glacier ended up living a breaking swipe from a Heliolisk that if they went through Thunderbolt they might have been able to get the kill. And then game two was a lot different. I ended up leading my Hell mode in Alolan Ninetales in Arctivish, and they ended up leading Heatran Mesprit. And so they were trying to set up Trick Room on turn one, and I expected Heatran to be switch out of Protect, and so I ended up doubling up Mesprit with Vicious Rend and Blizzard. I decided to go for Blizzard instead of Moonblast, and sadly I just missed out on the kill, which if I used Moonblast it would have killed. However, I luckily got the freeze, prevented them from setting up Trick Room, and then Mesprit died from Hell Chip. And then from there, I encored Heatran into Protect because it protected on turn one. And then from there, the game was pretty much completely over on turn two. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's pretty much the breakdown I have. Any thoughts on the set from your side?
I mean, yeah, like I said, after I saw it the first time, is honestly barring that like one misplay because obviously if they get up Trick Room, it doesn't look good for you because you had the Arctivish out. So like barring the one like should have been the guaranteed kill with the Moonblast, I genuinely think this was like your best played match like all season. And this matchup was not easy for you. The Tentacle Pirates have a lot of tools that are very good into mono ice teams and just the cycling of the fake outs and the intimidate pressure and the grassy glide pressure. Was stuff that you had to contend with. But I do think the freeze was unfortunate, but I do think the glacier would have given them a lot of trouble, sort of in the back. So it would have been tough for them to kind of like get over that advantage. And then the encore really, I think, kind of sealed it for them because that made Heatran completely useless. And then they had to switch it out. And then you can kind of predict when it's coming back in. So well played, man.
Well, yeah, definitely a big win for me. Getting the 2-0, and I think it actually ended up putting me first seed in my division. Or I guess our division. But with that, that is all the matches, and we can get to the rankings. So starting at number 24, we have the ferocious Ursa-Rings. Sorry, they're sad to go with the new coach being 24th, but you know they've still yet to win the game. Any thoughts on their position?
Yeah, I mean, it is just kind of what it is. Like they haven't won a full set. Two they won two individual games and said they have played so far, so good on them. I think we'll see a win out of them before the season's done.
I definitely hope so. That would definitely be really cool. I also really like their changes to the team. I think they've improved it very much since the team they originally had. With that, we can go up to number 23, which is the Steel Warriors, who are 1-6 -7. Any thoughts on their place or the team in general?
I This team has some mods that I really like seeing. Like I love Mawile. Absolutely love Mawile. It's one of my favorite Pokemon. Also like Meowstic, and I like Dusknoir. I just want to see just a little bit of better prep out of this coach, really, because I still think their team is actually has a lot of untapped potential. Like when I was helping KJ prep for this match, I didn't exactly make it easy for him. So I just want to see them push the boundaries just a little bit more in the last 2 weeks of the season because this team has a lot of things that it can do.
I'll definitely agree with that. But 23rd because they're 1-5. Not that they don't have the best record and haven't had the best wins. But continuing on, we have a team that has been 24th for a while, but they're after their first win, we got them up to 22. Any thoughts on Goomer and the Roller Pretzels at 22?
Congratulations, Gumi, on finally getting your first win. And we're all proud of you, but you got to finish the strong season. I want to see that 3-5 plus 3, or yeah, I think that's your cap, or a 3-5 plus 1. Like I want to see you go all the way. Don't stop here.
Yeah, definitely would be nice. I think they had a good win against a good team. A team that has that it is a good team, but has also been not having the best season because I think they end up being here at number 21, which is the Drowsy Dragosolds. So, any
I
thoughts
mean, I
on the Dragosolds?
got the same message for the Drake results as I did the pretzels. Finish with the 3-5. Do your best to keep going strong because I also think this is another solid team comp, and I know the coach can play well. It's just about they had a really tough schedule this season, and the last thing you want to lose is morale while you're finishing off the main season.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Um, But uh, I don't like. I think the Dragon's have been a lot higher, and I definitely think that they played really well, and they've had. I think they've had more some of the most close matches this entire season, but they just haven't been able to finish off those sets. So, one of the reasons why they're 21th. Continuing up, we have 20th, the Atlanta Talonflames. Any thoughts on the Talonflames?
Yeah, despite still wondering about some members of their team, like the Dracloak and the Whale Lord. Actually, I believe the Dracloak came to the match versus the Ursa Rings. I did forget to mention that one. It was like an offensive set with a focus sash, which was kind of cool. But yeah, I think this was a good win for them. Definitely earned a bump up in the rankings, and it's nice to be able to see some of those bonds getting put to work. So it's just about kind of can they stay the course to finish off with the 4-4
Oh yeah,
at the end of the season.
I definitely agree with that. And as I guess for reference for anyone who wants to who doesn't know, all the teams that currently have 4 losses or fewer still have pathways to get to the playoffs. Just so you all know. Continuing on, we have number 19, the Manchester Park Slowbooks, who are 2-4 -5. So any thoughts of their position or the team as a whole?
I think this position is fairly appropriate for where this team is. Like, I did give them a bit of a thrashing this past week, but they also did not make it easy from a prep perspective. So this is another team that I can very conceivably see finishing strong 4-4 and making it into playoffs. So it's just about how we can keep going these last 2 weeks. So Adam, if you're listening, let's get it.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I'm excited to see some of your more matches. Continuing on, we have number 18, Grandma's Toga Kisses, who are 2-4 -5. Any thoughts on this team?
Honestly, this is probably one of the more surprising teams I'm surprised to see down here. I think this team started off the season like really hot. Actually, it was in at least the top. It was in the top half for I think a little while, but
Hmm.
these last couple of weeks have just not been nice to the Toga Kisses. So
Yeah,
maybe need a little TLC from Grandma over there.
yeah. I think they've had a pretty tough last couple of weeks based on like the opponents they played. Um, and I definitely don't think that has helped. But yeah, they've definitely had a couple. Like I think the previous week they played the Lake Erie Wishy-Washies. This week I think they ended up playing
Brave,
Brave. Yeah, and so I think
yeah.
they definitely have not had the best. They've had a pretty tough stretch of schedule, which I think also might be a little bit one of the reasons why they're a little bit higher on the 2-4 teams, despite not having the best differential.
Yeah, no, that I completely agree with that. I believe they had to face Panda as well. I
Yeah,
might be, yeah, like Panda, Brave, Hippo, back to back. Like, yeah, no,
which
respect. That's
which
that's
which
tough.
which spoilers is 3 teams in the top like 6, if y'all don't know.
Yeah. I will say one thing about this team though. I really like the War Turtle trade. I've liked seeing how they did use it, how they've used it since they picked it up. It's nice.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. But with that, we can go up to the 17, the New York Metronomes, who are 2-4 -3. So any thoughts on their position?
Yeah, no, I think this is about where they should be. Like, you have a really solid team comp here that I really have enjoyed from even the beginning of the season. Just gotta nail those plays down and make sure that we get those clean wins to finish strong with the 4-4.
Oh yeah, and and I also think they have one of the better 2-4 differentials. I think that's another big aspect on their placement. But at -3, but I definitely think they've been playing pretty good, and I definitely I struggled when I played them. But continuing on, we have number 16, the Queen City Quackers, who are also 2-4 -3. So any thoughts on why they might be above the Metronomes?
I think overall their record, while they are both 2-4, I think the Queen City Quagsires and Apple, their coaches, had a lot of really close sets on both the winning and the losing end, and I think that ekes him out a little bit above Preston, who I think has had a little bit more control over his losses in terms of potential misplays or even more obvious like forgetting of information like the Spritzy not having Aroma Veil, or rather the Spritzy not being able to be taunted because of Aroma Veil. So I think that is kind of what, in my opinion at least, edges this coach out over the previous one.
Yep. And so finally, we have number 15, which is Rex, 2-4 -2. Rex is both the highest ranked 2-4 team and the highest differential 2-4 team. So do you think that is the reason why they are the highest ranked, or is there something else?
I think that coupled with the fact that he is a former champion, being the first VDL Searing Shot champion from last season, is also why he's kind of like almost like gatekeeping this lower rank because it's very hard to pass him to be voted higher than him without having more wins
Hmm.
just because of how strong his differential is and the fact that he does play well. He's gotten a fair bit unlucky across the weeks as well, but I still really like this team comp. And when it works, it really has been putting in the work. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Um, well, I'm definitely hoping to see Rex do some pretty good um, matches the rest of the season. But surprisingly to me and maybe everyone, is they technically have actually already played all their matches for this entire season. So I'm they have not told the results of all the matches, but they actually have finished every single match, which is very interesting because this is we're like a couple days into week 7 and they finished their week 7 and 8 matches already. But continuing on, we have number 14, the Alola Arachnids. So the Arachnids are the lowest 3-3 team with 3-3 -1 as their differential. And in addition to that, they have made 2 trades where I can't remember what they dropped, but they added Cecino and Quillfish. I think they
So
dropped, yeah,
I can tell you what they dropped. They traded their Kadabra for Quillfish, and they traded their Crawdont for a Cinchino.
yes. Okay. So, um, your dealer's choice. Do you want to talk about the trades or their position?
I like dealer's choice. I'll talk about their position first. I think their position is going to be a little bit of a rough road to not to finish getting playoffs, but I know they have 2 really challenging matches left on their schedule. They have to face Brave, who is currently like undefeated, and they have to face some who is more or less around their same differential from another or from another. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm remembering that completely wrong. They have to face who do they have to? No, they have to face
Misenko,
some
Misenko,
Misenko
and some.
and some. Okay, that's who I couldn't remember. Right, Auto faces Brave. Anyway, I think that Misenko and some will be some challenging roads for this team that is going to really need the 2 wins because of their weaker differential in that regard. However, I think the trades help the team a lot. This team has enjoyed setting up various mons this entire season so far, but one thing that it hasn't had a lot of is some of that like debuff pressure. Like the Moltres has the Snarl, but I think the Quillfish with the Intimidate and its very wide array of support tools will be super helpful. And the Cinchino will be a much more, I guess, like a it'll be a much more interesting candidate for like to round out their speed tiers because I gotta be honest, the Kadabra was cool, but it really just wasn't doing much.
Well, yeah, I think for everyone, one of the big issues with the team, I think before these trades, is that the fastest mon on their team was Kadabra at 105 base speed, and so their team could easily be dealt or outsped in that aspect. And in addition to that, their fastest mon really wasn't, the bulkiest or even the most offensive mon because it wasn't even a fully evolved mon. And so I think Cincino helps a lot, giving a mon that you can lead as a fast mon with 115 base speed, and you can get technician boosted or skill link boosted, like triple axles and tail slaps and things like that, and just do big damage while having a pretty good speed tier. And then the Crawdont just didn't come much, so I think it's fine to have dropped it for the benefits of a fast, pretty good damaging mon. And then obviously Intimidate's always helpful.
Yep, I'm curious to see where they'll go with the in the last 2 weeks with these trades. I really think these trades are strong for them.
But with that, we can move up to number 13, which is the Bistro Bewares, who are at 3-3 +0. So any thoughts on their position? Why they're a little bit high, high above, above the Arachnids or anything like that?
Yes, I think Troy and the Bewares have been playing really well recently. I think he's really starting to hit his stride with what his team capabilities are. Again, there are still some members where like I do look at this team and it's like, why is the coughing there? Why is the leafy on there? But I can't really take away from the fact that he's doing well with it, and I think this is an apt place for him in the power rankings.
Hmm. I definitely agree. They've been having a little bit of winning streak here. I think they've been playing well overall, and like I said, like we all said, they've had good Pokemon. It's just kind of a strange combination, but they've been making it work. Continuing on, we have Crushing Silvalis, who are at 3-3 -1. So they have a little bit lower of a differential, but they have been very high in power rankings earlier in the season. So any thoughts on season so far?
I mean, I still think he's having a great season. I think it's small misplays, small things in prep that are just kind of getting the best of him, coupled with opponents who are very good at capitalizing on mistakes. Like he's had a fairly tough latter half of the season. Like I think some of his earlier matches where he was, picking up the wins, he was hitting his stride, but like as you kind of go towards the end of the season, like he's hitting some rough roadblocks with like people like Panda. He's got I believe KJ and Brave on his schedule. Two of those coaches are currently undefeated. So that's not gonna be an easy road for him. But I still like this team. I'm curious to see what he might want to change going into the last couple of weeks of the season because spoilers, trades end after week 7. So we'll see. But I still like the team. I still think he's piloting it well. He just needs to refine his prep and his play just a little bit to get there.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, like it's I definitely like the team. I think they've been doing pretty well. But yeah, like they definitely had a little bit of a losing streak, and they hopefully they can turn it around here. But I think in addition to having some pretty tough or teams, good teams that beat them, I think they're them be having high rankings previously definitely a big part of them being as high as they are because they are the second highest three team, in which the highest 3-3 team is the Miss Magical Marauders. In addition to being the highest, you also have the highest differential at 3-3 +1. So, do you think your high differential is the reason why you're here, or is there any other reason you think you deserve to be the top spot?
I think I think the high differential is definitely a really good factor for why people have put me at the top of the 3-3 teams. But I also think like my overall consistency across the season, because despite where I've been in the power rankings, I've usually been rounding out wherever I am with the win loss. Like I think a couple of weeks ago I was like the highest 2-3 team or something like that. So I think it's really people are noticing how consistent I am as a player, and I think that's been lending my my team and myself to be a little bit higher in the rankings.
Hmm. Oh yeah, I definitely think you're. In addition to that, I think that your back-to-back 2-0 wins have been really good. I think you beating a very good team and the Trixie Chicos the previous week definitely helped. I think, and then I think you've had pretty tough schedule as well, which show having as good of a differential as with your tough schedule is always a good sign. But with that, we can get up to the top 10. Starting at number 10, the MK Mimikyues at 4-2 +1. So I believe that this is the lowest differential for one team. And so I think that might be a reason why they are the lowest 4-2 overall team. So do you believe the differential is the main reason, or do you think there's something else that's noteworthy of why they're 10th rather than near the top of the 4-2 teams?
I think as we start like really getting into the top 10, I think the numbers really play a big role in terms of why certain teams are ranked there. I will say personally, if they are I think they're, I agree with you. I think they're also the lowest ranked 4-2 team in terms of differential. I think that's really a big one. Because I believe quite a few teams in the top 10 got 0-2 this week, which is why their placements have kind of shifted, this being one of them. But I still like the team. I still think Yasha is playing okay, but he's definitely probably being exposed to maybe some weak points that he might look to shore up in the last couple of weeks of the season.
Well, yeah, I think one of the big things is that they've had some yeah, like some like big like losses that felt like really bad, and in addition to that, I think they've had some wins that they felt like they kind of squeaked by on, which obviously is not that big of a deal in the general sense because you get the same, you still 4-2, but in the power rankings, if you dominate, you have dominating victories and close losses, you get a little bit better. Uh,
Nah, yeah, this is true. This is a very quality over quantity type of exercise,
well, kind of, but definitely,
especially with so many teams with the same record.
yeah, exactly, definitely within the same record. But continuing on, I believe this is the Trixie Chicos, who are 4-2+2. I believe these are the second lowest power, the differentials on the for this team, or yeah, for this 4-2. It's the second lowest differential for the 4-2 teams. So it's not too surprising that they're the second lowest on the 4-2 teams. Do you think there's anything else about them other than their differential that puts them here?
Nah, I think again it's really just the numbers. Like Otto had a rough 2 weeks with the back-to-back O2s, but the team comp is still working for him. I think it's just he has a tough sort of latter half of the season as well. So it's just about like just getting it together. And I definitely believe he's a strong enough coach to finish strong 6-2 record.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. That's definitely fair. Like, we all know Otto's is a great coach, but yeah, I definitely think not only the differential, but them having back-to-back O2 losses definitely doesn't help their, like, candidacy of being the most that high, super high in the power rankings, for compared to the other 4-2 teams.
Mm-hmm.
Continuing on, we have number 8, who's the Tentacle Pirates, who are 4-2+3, who I also believe is the uh, third lowest on differentials of the 4-2 teams.
Yeah.
maybe we're just a little bit boring in power rankings, and we just ranked like exclusively based on your differential here.
I mean, honestly though, Batista, we're getting to that point in the season where like there's only 2 weeks left, so the numbers really do have to start speaking for themselves, especially like when we're going into talking playoff picture. So I think ranking these guys by their differential, especially with such similar records and no like glaring obvious weaknesses in team comp, is that I think that's just gonna happen regardless.
Oh yeah, I think another thing other than differential, I do think that I think the Pirates getting O2'd by me, in which I think it was a fairly favorable matchup when you look at the teams exclusively, definitely didn't help their ranking either. I think that's definitely an aspect, in addition to it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
But with that, we can go to number 7, which is the Vienna Vaporions. So these do have a higher differential than a team above them. So we have ended our trend. So the question is why do you think they are here rather than above some of the other teams that are 4-2 but might have the same or lower differential than them?
I gotta say, I'm proud of this team. I'm proud of this coach. I think he started off the season a little cold, no pun intended, but low in the power rankings. But this man's hit a hot streak. I think that's why he's up this high, and he's earned it. Like he's not had, I would say, easy opponents over the course of the season, and his wins, especially the 2-0 ones, have been really kind of commanding. So props. This is a team that I think if he continues this way, I could see this team breaking into maybe top five.
Yeah. So I will say I think that we misranked them. I think that the Vienna Viporian should be one, maybe even two spots higher than this. I think they have shown their skills in recent history, and they have been playing really well, and their differential has been great. They have not had, they've had pretty much one bad, like one close, like one bad loss, and pretty much everything else has either been a very commanding win or a very close loss. And so I definitely
Who
think
were the, who were the two teams they even lost to? Honestly, I don't. I'm just trying to remember.
so. I Let's see. I remember the the Vienna Vaporions. They ended up losing to,
I know Brave was one of them, who is
yeah,
currently undefeated.
yeah. I think it was the Tentacle Pirates and, yeah, the Migrating Melodics. So their losses are against the eighth rank team and some team in the top five, which you'll hear later. But they were ranked 2 last week.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
yeah,
no, no,
yeah.
he's done a good job.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying is that their only losses have been to two really good teams, and they only had, and one of those was in a nail biter, which they hardly lost, and everything else has been a very convincing win. So I definitely think that they should be higher,
Mm,
in my opinion.
Well, well, you know what? Something, Batista. They face Panda, I believe, in week 8. So you keep this up, he might actually take that number one spot. Who knows?
We shall see. But continuing on, we have number 6, which is Rebellion, who's 4-2 plus 4, so slightly below in differential than the Vaporions. So any thoughts on why you think they're above the Vaporions?
I think people are just impressed with how far Lucian's taken this Mono Kanto themed team, and those trades were absolutely godsend for his draft. I think they are working out so much better than what he started with during, I believe, week 1. So I think that is probably the main reason he's up a little bit higher than the Vaporions, because you can arguably say he's, drafting like yourself, who is, spoilers, somewhere in the top 5. He's drafting with a restriction, and he's also winning. I believe he's on a 2-0 hot streak for like the last like 3 weeks, or
So
something like
he's
that.
so he ended up getting 4 consecutive weeks of 2-0s.
Yeah, like that's really good for this kind of restriction. So I think Lucian's on the path to finishing very strong 6-2.
Well, yeah, I think the big thing, kind of what you mentioned, which is I think if you account for his new team, so since he made his trades and to his team, I believe he has not lost a single game. Like not even
Nope.
not even a not even just, not saying he hasn't lost a match. I'm saying he hasn't lost a game. I think he has he has 2-0 all the way since he's made those trades. And so I
Yep.
think I think you could kind of argue that with this team composition, he is undefeated and thus he can be a little bit higher. And I think that's kind of the argumentation that some of the coaches put him really a little bit higher here, and that's why they ended up being above the Vaporians despite the differential.
Yeah, no, you're right. Since week 3, when he faced the Slowpokes, undefeated, 2-0s.
Continuing on, we can go to number 5, which is the Walden Bashers, who are 4-2 plus 5. So, any thoughts on the Bashers position?
I think this is a good place for Goomer. I know at first there was a lot of controversy over how good his team was or not, especially like week 0, week 1. But I think watching him play it and utilize it, I've at least definitely become more of a fan of it. I was pretty high on this team when we started, but seeing Goomer put these pieces to work is real nice, and I think rank 5 is a good place for him. The two losses, like I believe one of them was to you, which, spoilers, is somewhere in the top 4. And I forgot who else he lost. Oh, he lost to KJ in week 1 as well, who is a
Yeah.
lower ranked team. So maybe that is why he's in 5 rather than like the top 3. But yeah, that's
Well,
my thoughts.
yeah, I think I don't so you know I don't think any of the any team thus right now prove that they're above any teams with better different or better records than them. So I don't think any 4-2 team is better than a 5-1 team, or any 3-3 team has proven it's better than like a 4-2 team.
True.
So I think that's part of it. And the only team that is above them not only beat them in the head-to-head, but also has a better differential, which is myself at rank 4. So I'm 4-4 plus 6. And honestly, I think the big reason I'm here, which is the fact that I have the I have a perfect differential, which means that I could not have a better differential with the record I'm at 4-2 plus 6, which means that every loss has been a 1-2 and every win has been a 2-0. So I think that's pretty much the big reason I'm here. Any thoughts on why I'm here other than that?
I mean, first off, congratulations for taking first seed in Diamond. That's one. I think you've definitely proven how scary Mono Ice can be. This team just absolutely craps out offensive pressure like no tomorrow. And your match against DJS really proved a little bit of the support tools that your team also has that can make it troublesome to deal with. That Rotom Fridge set was really handy with the debuffing, the encore on the Nine Tails. Like, you got some good. The AV Mr. Rhyme was also a really nice thing. So I think that, coupled with, similar to Lucian, like, you've only gone 2-0s and you're also doing it with this level of restriction. It's very impressive.
Well, yeah, definitely happy to see this. It's definitely the highest I've ever been ranked. So definitely a new feeling for me. But with that, we can go to the 5-1 and better teams, starting with the Lake Erie Wishy-Washies, who are 5-1 plus 4. Um, they are the only 5-1 team. I'm going to say that's probably the reason why they're third and not a lower or higher. Uh, any thoughts on that, on the team or their
Well,
ranking?
after you say that, now that I put it in the context of what you said about where Goomer was, I didn't even realize we only had 5-1 team. I'll be real honest. Like, that's just so interesting that we just have him just kind of sitting up here at this 5-1 plateau by himself in this lake. But I think his team has been performing quite well. He has also proven to be quite a strong coach. I know I was personally not super high on some of this team at the start, but I do see where a lot of those synergies are coming into play. I'll be curious to see if he makes any changes with the last week of the trades going up. And spoilers, he actually gets to face Panda, which is somewhere in the top two, and I am super excited for that match. That's going to be a real test of whether or not he starts leaving this plateau of rank
Yeah,
3.
yeah, I definitely think if they have a good showing against Panda, win or lose, I think they'll be remain pretty high. But if I think if they get blown out by Panda, I think they might drop below some of teams, even if they have a better record than them. Because they don't have the best differential. If you look at their differential, they have a
Mm-hmm.
lower differential than three or lower plus minus than three teams that have 4-2 records, which means for anyone who's unaware, it means they've had a lot of closer sets or a lot of blowout losses, um, which obviously isn't the end of the world, but definitely can definitely identify them not as scary as some of the teams, even if they have a better overall record.
This is true. This is true. Now he's only got one loss, but he's definitely had a lot of close like 2-1 game sets this season. So I'll be curious to see if he can finish strong with a couple of 2-0s to round out that 7-1
Oh yeah.
differential.
Well, the premiere this week is going to be so exciting with Panda versus
Can't wait.
the Pangorials versus the Wishiwashis. Yeah, like this is gonna be a big, interesting match. I'm hoping for it to be a fun, close match too. But
Yep.
with that, we can get to the top two. Which number two? It is the Migrating Melodics for I believe the second or third week in a row. Um, Melodics undefeated. Um, the team above them is still undefeated. um,
Yeah.
I don't know. The Brave and the Melodics have been performing wonderfully. They've played so well. They've shown the main core of their team has been crazy good. I definitely think that one of the complaints I've had is that I definitely would like to see some of their other mons do a little bit more work. I definitely think that their team's been a little bit top heavy, which is not the end of the world, especially in the regular season, but can definitely be difficult in the playoffs when you're playing against coaches a second time or playing against coaches that are maybe a little bit better on average. And so I definitely think hopefully they can be a little bit more diverse in the team or make some trades if they don't like some of these mons. But they have definitely been showing themselves and their core and their main core as being amazingly powerful.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that differential really speaks for itself. Like 6-0 plus 11. I don't think I've seen a double-digit differential this whole time so far.
Yeah,
So, like, I'm really proud of Brave and how he's been piloting this team. But I also completely agree that he can't fall into that same trap of bringing that core four and not showing us what some of these other mons can do, because that is almost a death sentence for playoffs for anybody who he either hasn't fought before, who happens to have better tools to deal with those core four, as hard as that really might be because they're quite strong, or like you said, the rematch against a coach who has lost against him and now has a better idea of how he might play the team, and he has to kind of develop a second strategy on how to win.
yeah. But obviously, this is a little bit nitpicking because obviously there's not much to say except that you've been playing wonderfully, Brave. But sadly, you have not number one because number one is for the seventh consecutive week in a row. Panda and the Baltimore Pangorials. Anything to say about Panda?
I mean, he has a worse differential than Brave with the same record, but I think the real difference it's a champ difference. Like he started out here, he has the same record as the number two, and like the literal difference is one game. But there's not really enough of a reason to drop him or swap those spots. I know we've been talking about how big differential is in terms of numbers, but I think Panda having that champion under his belt and that we do take coach strength into account after as the weeks go by, I think that is what just slightly edges him out over Brave. However, I will say that Panda has a tough last 2 weeks.
They
Not even joking, he has a tough last two
they
weeks.
do.
So
They have to.
Brave,
Yeah, they have to
this might be the
play.
time.
Yeah, Panda has to play against the third ranked team in this power rankings and the sixth ranked team in this power rankings, I believe. Like that is their final two matches of the season, which is not easy at all. Um, so
Yeah.
so we
Not
shall.
to mention, sorry, God.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say. So we shall see if they can finish off undefeated and keep this number one rank the entire season.
Yeah, because I gotta be honest with you, just for all of you guys who might not know, Panda and Hippo are good friends, and they've been prepping together, and we all know how much we enjoy matches against good friends, right? That know our playstyle and all those fun, quirky things about what we like to bring. So I think that's gonna make that match next week even harder for him to keep this streak going.
Yeah, definitely. But with that, here are the final rankings. So for reference, every team that has 4 wins or 4 losses or fewer has a chance to make playoffs, and every team that finishes the season with 5 wins is guaranteed playoffs at this point. So for everyone here, if you can get to 5 wins, try your best to get to 5 wins. That it will guarantee you a playoff spot. If you can't get to 5 wins, and if do your best to get to 4-4, because if you're at 4-4, you have a chance to make playoffs, in which the higher differential gives you a better chance. So definitely do your best for everyone who can to try to finish off. And as for always, even if you can't make playoffs, I hope you have some fun and get some, try your best to try to, get some people out of playoffs or, try to finish strong. Yeah.
Yes, just insert chaos into the whole thing. Listen,
Yeah.
I finished 3-5 -1 last season, which was like the best differential for someone 3-5. Like, I don't care if you have 5 losses or not. Like, go out strong.
Oh
Like, just
yeah.
have a good time. Go out strong, and I hope everybody has a good last couple of weeks. It's been a really good
Oh
season so
yeah.
far.
And also, come on, this is likely going to be our last season of this of Sword and Shield.
Yeah.
And so I think trying to do a little bit of farewell, doing your best is always nice. But like I said, almost every team still has a playoff chance. Technically, if you look at everything, it's team ranked 20th to ranked 1 all have a playoff chance or have locked playoffs depending on. Um, and so, good luck with everyone. Any thoughts from you or any final things to say before we sign off, Miss Meg?
Yeah, just I've been having a great season so far, getting to know some of you guys, seeing you guys play. Like, I can't wait till we get to hopefully next week's video and we can really start talking a little bit more playoff picture. I think that'll be really exciting
Yeah.
after week 7 is concluded.
Oh yeah. No, I consider doing a playoff video or a playoff portion of this one, but I think we're just gonna leave it at what I said because it's very convoluted in everyone's pathways at
Mm-hmm.
this point. But at the end of week 7, the playoff picture will be very clear. But like I said, at this point, every single team that can end the season 4-4 has a chance to make playoffs at this point. So,
Yeah, sounds good.
so with that, I think we'll sign off. I hope everyone enjoyed. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Later, y'all.